Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, last part of the Norm interview. I was thinking then we definitely got to do more Ron Bennington. I'm gonna have to yeah, have a dig for his channel, see who else he's got on. But yeah, last part of Norm. Let's go.
I wanted to get Dave and Jay together for the show, and almost did it, but didn't turn out that way. But hopefully in season two,
Yeah.
we'll get Jay.
Well, you could see that it's
together.
there's something there, particularly as you get older. You're like, who gives a shit
Yes,
anymore? You know what I mean?
exactly,
Like I've
right.
seen that happen so many times. With people in my family who weren't talking,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden they're older and they're like, I don't even fuck it. You know what I mean?
Right. Old
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
It's like, there's that trope about, like, as in country songs stuff, the old man at the end of the bar, and he's been there 30 years, still thinking about that lady. And at some point you go, it's probably the booze too.
Yeah.
Because when I meet old men, I go, nobody go. I never met an old man go, still thinking about Ruth. It's like, they're thinking about their fucking knee and
Right,
shit.
right.
So yeah, that's what I think those guys. And I think Leno kind of understood it immediately.
He
Because he doesn't take
he
it
doesn't
seriously
care.
at all.
Yeah. He's like I don't know. It seems like the first time you ever saw him now with his car show, he seems happier than he was 30 years of having the biggest, late night show.
Yeah, he doesn't see things as like I remember once during a commercial, he's like, "Hey, no, I want to meet you. This guy's some guy in the front. Yeah, the guy sells hot dogs in Minneapolis." I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." He goes, "No, I was a comedian." But it really is like that to him.
Yeah.
It's just two guys that have different things. And he's also got a thing that's really funny that it's like practical, but supra practical, where like he'll go, yeah. Like one time we're you sit there and you watch the band who's there, and he's just stomping his foot like this, and he goes, yeah, buy one of those CDs. And I go, yeah, sure, I bought CDs. Yeah. He goes, yeah, it's not it. Like, you just turn the radio on, you're free music. and then one day, one time I decided to jog to get in shape, and I was talking to him and his wife. And yeah, it's not really. Yeah, the tiger's chasing you, the dog is chasing you. Yeah, run. But he was like my swimming pool, I swim to one end of the yeah, swim to the And his wife's like, yeah, Jay, the only time he ever gets in the swimming pool is to rake the leaves out.
Yeah. Well, he always bragged about not spending his salary, his night salary. I'm just like, fucking spend it, Jay.
Holy
it's yours.
God almighty.
What are you worried about?
It's strange.
You're not going to run out of money, dude. Spend some of it. You also said with this show that you wanted to have Robert Blake on.
That's my dream guest.
There?
Yeah, we had a producer that fucked it up. We had a producer that we almost had him. He was saying how he only did the classy shows.
Yeah.
And I said we were on. This guy pretends he can get anybody. This producer. We go, just keep him on, keep talking. And then this moron of a producer, he goes, I gotta go now, Robert. I'll phone you tomorrow. I gotta take my wife to dinner. He wasn't making a joke.
Yeah,
but
that was it.
Idiotic thing to say.
Yeah, I get it. Set up. Now, what is it
I
about?
like that Robert Blake's. This is what I like most about Robert Blake is his alibi. He's like, how could I have been the guy to shoot her? I was. Everybody saw me. I was getting my gun. That worked as an alibi.
That worked.
I love that alibi.
There's a UK criminal who got off of a case. He got murders got put on him, but at the time the murders happened, he was robbing a warehouse. So in the end, he come out and said, "Actually, I was robbing this warehouse," and he got a couple of years rather than getting the time because they could prove that he did rob the warehouse. But think of that. His alibi was a lesser crime that he was doing at the time the murders took place.
Were you a fan of his as an actor, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really made me understand O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Because when I was on Saturday Night Live, there was some black staff members, and they'd say they thought O.J. was innocent. I go, really? Yeah. Like, all that blood evidence? You sure it's not just because, he's a black guy and you're a black guy and police have been treating black guys bad? Is that what it is? Because I can understand that. No, we think he's innocent. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of strange. But then when when Robert Blake went up, I love Beretta.
Yeah.
And I want him to get up.
Yeah, you want to.
And after that, I was like, "Oh, I get it. Sure,
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Of course, if Robert Blake had been in prison, I would have been rioting."
And people forget Mickey. When he was on the Little Rascals, Mickey was the greatest.
Yeah. Watch In Cold Blood.
Yeah.
After,
Yeah. So is that now? Who is like somebody that you're dying to get on the show? Somebody?
We try to get OJ, and I guess he's represented by his lawyer in Arizona.
Yeah.
And so the guy phones him, and the lawyer is like, "Oh yeah, he'll do it. Sure, absolutely." And I'm like, "Wow, that's super great." And then he phones back. He goes, "Yes, are you the Norm Macdonald?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And then he said, OJ said that you were particularly rough on him. There's a moment of OJ.
Do you know, because that case isn't as big in the UK. I know it through jokes like Norm's, but imagine how big that interview would have been. That would have been YouTube gold, because the jokes is like legendary. Norm's OJ jokes is like legendary. Imagine if there was a conversation. Yeah.
One of the funniest things, they got him on. I wish I could remember the Chris Myers. I think it was Chris Myers on ESPN, and he had the first interview with OJ that was an hour long, and he asked him about the entire timeline, and then right at the end, he goes, "Thanks to O.J. Simpson." OJ's like, "Yeah, thanks for all the football questions." He thought it was going to be
like... I was doing radio the day that the trial was coming back, and we just randomly called 7 different continents, and every continent knew the story and was waiting. We would call like a Ramada Inn in some place, and we would say, is he guilty or
trial?
Innocent? Yeah, right. The trial. The day that they said the verdict was coming in. And we asked the people, do you think he's guilty or innocent? And if any country had any color to them whatsoever, innocent. And if it was a white country, Iceland, like, no, he's very guilty. But China, like, no, I don't think he did it. You know what I mean? And it was so fascinating to me. We really, that was like the beginning, I think, of white people being shocked of, maybe we don't get everything all the time.
That people always go like Fox News. Is it racist or is it? Here's why I think Fox News is racist. Maybe they hire a guy to be their expert on all criminal. If any crime happens, they bring in their expert, Mark Furman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guy's only known for one thing.
Yeah.
They may as well Mark Furman racist. They may as well just say that may as well be his.
Yeah.
So it might as well
when
be
they described people, I saw Bill Maher one time, and it was Richard Belzer, and you can just tell them how you want to be described. And it said Richard Belzer, conspiracy theorist, and I was like, everyone, like you. Don't you lose your cred after a while if you're like.
Well, he's written books. Belzer has written books that go very deeply, and I've never heard him say, I don't know this. I got to really just believe the official word on this one.
No.
Never.
I think he he went with the Mort Saul kind of career move.
Yes. You ever get concerned when you hear like, oh, we should have Robert Blake on the show? Does you ever think, oh shit, no? You know?
No, I had to call Robert one time. I had to try and get him on there too.
Yeah.
I was very excited for that.
Yeah.
We all tried. It was a full court press, but I was excited about that episode. Actually, I would have loved to seen those two together.
Well, because he was always a great interviewer. You know.
Yeah,
he's out of his fucking mind.
before.
Yeah, he did Carson constantly,
Yeah.
and he had the unlit cigarette all the time.
There you go. Let me tell you about the men in the suits.
Yeah, he was such an expert on any topic.
Yeah,
when he was
he
on
was,
TV. Every single topic.
I was disappointed when he didn't show up, but we, silver lining, we got Fred Stoller that day.
Is there
It was one of my favorite episodes, actually.
Is there somebody out there for you that you would think, oh, they would be perfect
for me? But we don't.
Smiths,
it doesn't
right?
mesh.
Yeah.
I love Morrissey, but I don't even know him. Not Morrissey. Noel Gallagher. I think he's the funniest guy. He's just so charismatic.
Oh, is he not a musician?
Yeah, he's a musician.
Yes.
Oh, and Iggy Pop. I think you would love Iggy Pop.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think that would be.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this Spade episode.
Noel Gallagher and Norm. That would have been another, because Noel is like, even people, because a lot of people don't like Oasis, don't like the music. I don't think most people don't like Liam, but everyone thinks like Noel is so funny. He like should have been a comedian. He is so funny and he's so quick. But yeah, that would have been a great interview. Noel would probably be aware of Norm as well, because I think his wife bought him dinner with Jerry Seinfeld. Because that's when he said to Russell Brand, he's on Russell Brand's show, he said, yeah, my wife bought me a meal with Jerry Seinfeld. He's yeah. And she's like, isn't it funny, Russell, that we had a dinner for like 3 hours? He never mentioned you. So we spoke about comedy for hours. No one mentioned you, Russell.
Was incredibly
that's good.
funny.
Thank you.
Incredibly funny.
What I liked about the Spade episode is it kind of got he captured what we were trying to get in the show, which was the show and the show behind the show at the same time. And I thought really only two people that are the embodiment of that. One is Spade and one's Marty Short, where nobody knows that show business is more complete bullshit than Spade.
Right. But they both love it so much. They love the shit out of it.
It's so in show business.
Exactly.
So it's a funny dynamic, because usually the person that has contempt for show business is like Letterman or something. That just cordons himself off in a compound somewhere. But Spade's on every red carpet. He took me to these fucking bars. I don't know how people have the I'm just always tired.
Yes.
And he's like, let's go. We'll go to a bar. I just did this one night with him. We go to a bar, and then he's like, come on, come with me. And you butt in to the bar.
Yeah.
You know? And everyone's like, and people go, get out of the way. These guys were on the TV. And you're like, So then you're in this bar, you're fucking all close. There's a guy half a foot from you.
Yeah.
And then Spade goes, let's go. And you're like, what? And then you go to another place, and then 8 places later, nothing has been accomplished, and I'm so tired. But he said it's all about being seen, all about that stuff, you know. It's funny because I was trying to do the math, because I've been to 6 Hollywood parties in my life, and I got 2 jobs. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So then part of me said, what if I'd done 6,000? Because this is what happens. People don't know you're fucking alive, right? And so I did this one time after I did a show. I said, I'm going to take a year off. I take a year off. No one assumes you took a year off show business. They assume that you got kicked out of show business.
Right.
And you have to start all over again. And so I said, God damn, I'm going to start going to parties and, get a third of the time, because people next day they go, hey man, you know who we should get? That fucking guy that fell into the swimming pool or whatever. But I wouldn't be able to write, and I write a lot. That's why I'm not very good, as you can tell, socially. I stutter and I'm not too good, but
so you literally
most time I'm alone writing.
But do you can't go into that party and kind of turn on the Norm stage act? You can't suddenly be that guy. Yeah,
I can do it, but it's exhausting. It's
right.
like
It's like doing a 4-hour set.
It's like when Jesus was touched by the lepers. He'd lose some of his power. I don't like comparing myself to Jesus, but if everybody's going to do
it. Is there a goal that you had that you never got a chance to reach? Is there something that you said, oh, I really...
In show business?
In show business, something that you'd hoped that you would have gotten a chance to do?
I mean, I would love to start now, in show business, because when I began, I was always like, I never wanted to do anything but stand-up comedy. And I said, I want to do stand-up comedy and then become a big stand-up comedy star and only do that. But it quickly became evident that you can't make enough money. So, you advance for a while, and then somebody says, hey, what about this? You're really good at stand-up. What about if you do something you're terrible at? And we'll pay you 10 times as much.
Yeah.
And you'll act, and you'll fall in love with a girl. And then I'm like, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And then so what I told Ted Sarandis this. I said, you've really done something good by giving $20 million to these comedians, Chappelle and a couple others, and because it's made, it's taken this, what's always been considered a vulgar art, stand-up, and it's made a person can go, I want to be a stand-up, just like a person could say, I want to be a novelist, or I want to be an actor. I want to be a stand-up. That's all I want to be. And that's what I wished maybe I had done, but I didn't have the guts to. I had a kid I had to feed. But nowadays, I would certainly advise stand-ups to just aim at that.
That's crazy, because I've heard that a lot from American comedians talking about Hollywood, where stand-up is seen, like he said, it seemed to be like a dirty, like a look down on and a lesser art form. To me, though, I'd actually put stand-up comedy even above performing music, like on stage, because I don't think there's anything more brutal than a comedian bombing, and to go up on stage and have the fact that could happen to you, like, is a way more challenging art form than. And the other thing is with comedy is, it's not like music where you can sit in your bedroom for years and master an instrument and then go out and play, and you can play well. Comedy you can really only do in front of people and see what works and what doesn't. So you've got to go up, you've got to basically learn your craft in front of people. Like, but I've heard so many comedians say that in America, that Hollywood, it is like a look down upon thing, which is crazy to me.
Really rare. I mean, it's a very short list of guys that can draw big just from doing stand-up. I mean, I think Carlin was that guy, and Brian Regan today is that guy where his audience shows up for him, and without have ever seen him, do a sitcom or a movie.
Isn't that funny? Like, they always ask lists. They always have lists they love listing stand-up comedians and who's the funniest. Every once in a while, the funniest man in the world. And you go, but he's been around for years,
right?
But anyways, in these lists, somehow, clearly the best comic in the world is Brian Regan, without question. You don't need a comedian to say that. You need just anyone that's ever watched him to say that, you know.
I don't think I've ever seen Brian Regan.
And yet I never see him on those lists.
No, it is, and it's because of the people who write those lists aren't exactly people that care about stand-up comedy.
Unfortunately, it's not. There's some guy at the Times named Zinnemann. I don't know if you know him, but he seems to know a little about stand-up comedy. But it would be nice if I know stand-up comedy is a very, very new art form, if you want to call it an art form. I don't think it is an art personally, but it's great. I think what Ted did, what Ted Sarandos did specifically, in getting a whole bunch of money to Chappelle.
If you don't think it's art, what do you think it is?
Well, I think it's craft, because the only reason I say it's not art is because art allows for interpretation, right? But if you do stand-up comedy, you can't have people interpreting it differently. You can't have this guy laughing at this part, this guy laughing over here, this guy laughing. You know what I mean? You can't have different layers of laughter.
Right.
Your job is to say it and then make a noise, right? And then say something else and then make another noise. And that's craft, obviously. That's craft. Where I guess it can ascend into art is subject matter. I guess that would be the only, if you can reveal something.
What about for you, Adam? You feel the same way? It's not art, or?
I think it's a little blurred. I could see both sides. Yeah, I think that there's art to it, but I understand a lot of what Norm just said.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, art.
Yeah, I have to say, because there's an element of craft in every art. But I do understand what Norm is saying by that a joke makes obvious the point of the joke. Like he said, it's not open to interpretation. Although people do nowadays, where they say, "Oh, is he saying this or is he saying that?" But yeah, ultimately, the point of the joke. Yeah, it's a great point.
To me, I guess, like a person who takes a very simple idea and explores that idea to its which I feel the best stand-ups do. That's an intellectual exercise. Take something simple and make it incredibly complicated and look at all the minutiae. Art, I feel, is to take something incredibly complicated and reduce it to a line. You know, and I think that's how I would define art, and so that's pretty hard to do in stand-up.
But then I'd say comedy is an art. It's a performance art. Because, like I say, you can't do stand-up without it being performed. So it is a performance. And although Norm is right there, it's the craft behind it. But it's a bit like a movie. Although a movie can be open to interpretation, but the plot of the movie typically is something simple. Which I suppose is what Norm's saying about art, is that it's taking something complicated and putting a simple through line that can be followed as well as, But if you watch a good stand-up where they can like they can basically control your feelings. They can reel you in. It's like storytelling more. That's what I'd say. It's say like your Jimmy Cars. That's where it's a hard line craft, when it's joke after joke after joke after joke. But if you take someone like your Bill Burr, your Chappelle's, Cat Williams, Norm, Ricky Gervais, where they tell you a story and take you on a kind of journey, it becomes more storytelling, which to me is I prefer that. I prefer that kind of where they reel you in and completely hold your thing. Although that like the Jimmy Carr, but the thing with people that write Jimmy Carr's jokes is that anybody can read them and get a laugh. There's no art in the actual performing, the joke itself, the craft of the joke itself. But yeah, with what Norm does and Chappelle and all of them that really take you. Well, Chappelle, the joke where he gives you the punchline first, and then he says, "I'm so good at comedy, I can tell you the punchline, then tell you the setup to the joke, and you still won't see the punchline coming," and tells the story and does, because he takes you on a completely different journey away from what the punch, you know, the punch up, but you don't see it coming. Yeah. So yeah.
People have done it. Not for their whole acts, but people.
Yeah, just every once in a while catch that thing that is just.
Catch that truth.
Yeah, that truth that everybody immediately changes. You know what I mean? Immediately we'll be able to go, oh, I thought I felt that way about it.
That's the amazing
I now
part.
feel this way
Yeah.
about it. And then you'll hear that being kind of taken and working into. I remember when Louis did the thing of saying, I hate my kid. Like the first time I heard that, it was shocking.
Yeah.
And then I heard like
you hear it a lot now,
you
right?
hear newscasters saying it. My kid's a dick, and everyone laughs. Kinnison would give him a sandwich.
Yes.
That thing started to just move. Not even other comics stealing it, but politicians. And then you would go, okay, so everyone's moved over.
So it's cool that that person, even though they got stolen. It's like that with impressions sometimes. Like, people would all, Dana did the impression of Carson. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And then people would go, I did not know that. You go, well, you're really stealing that from Dana. Like,
that's when you have a great impressionist. He cracks that thing, but then everybody else starts at that point.
Yes.
So they're like,
when I was a kid, nobody could do Bob Hope.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? No,
now
everybody can do it.
But with I remember with Dana, you just have people starting with not can that. And you're like, he doesn't even talk that way. That's Dana finding a funny place to go with that.
I was so shocked because I remember because Reagan was the president, and I was like, the vice president is nobody's going to be able to do him. He has nothing. And so Dana just made it up from scratch. It's so funny.
You're really enjoying doing this show, though. This is, you think, something you want to do for a while, right?
I would love to do it forever, because Lori, who I work with, I don't know where she is, but she and I have always worked together, and she said, let's, because I was real good friends with Ted Sarandis, which was strange, and Dave, and they said, this is a chance to work with people that are friends. And then she said, let's just hire, everybody we hire will be our friends. Because as everybody knows, whenever you work together, if there's one bad person, that person becomes the person that everyone else talks about. I don't know what it is about human nature.
Yeah.
You're like, motherfucking Marcy.
Well, I think Lori is trying to make sure all your other interviews don't get canceled. So
well, thank you,
we'll
Ron.
get you on The View.
This is so awesome. You're such a great interviewer. I always love watching you.
Thank you.
And
Norm Macdonald has a show, and like I said, even though all this controversial stuff is happening, this is just a funny, silly show that these guys do. Adam, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
It was really great.
Yeah, thanks for putting that on.
Norm Macdonald, everybody, let him hear it. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, that was a great interview. A great Norm. Yeah. Yeah, I liked what he had to say on comedy too. I also like Norm's great at telling stories about people, even if you, because like a lot of the times these old American, whether they're, I think some of them you're talking about sports announcers and things like that, but he can still make you laugh with doing an impression, like the impression of although the Jay Leno one was funny, yeah. But yeah, that's the reaction. Sweet.